At the beginning of the story, we see a black man walking through a deserted neighborhood while talking on the phone. Having lost his way, he starts talking to himself. Suddenly, a white car begins to follow him. After a while, when the man turns around to look at the car, he notices that its door is open. Before he can think further, a masked man jumps out from behind a tree, attacks him, knocks him unconscious, and stuffs him into the car's trunk. The scene then shifts to a teenage couple, Chris and his girlfriend Rose. Chris is a talented photographer, and today he's meeting Rose's parents for the first time. However, Rose hasn't told her family that her boyfriend is black. Chris feels quite nervous, but Rose reassures him that her parents are educated people who don't care about color or race. On the way, Chris calls his friend, who works as a detective, and tells him he's on his way to meet Rose's family. Just after the call ends, something suddenly crashes into their car at high speed. Shocked, both of them get out to check and find a dead deer on the road. A few minutes later, a police officer arrives. The officer asks Chris for his driver's license, but Rose refuses to let him show it and insists that she was the one driving. The officer checks her license and lets them go. The two continue their journey and arrive at Rose's parents' house. Her father, Dean, and mother, Missy, warmly welcome Chris. Dean jokes, saying it's a good thing they hit the deer because their numbers have become too high lately. Dean gives Chris a tour of the house and shows him a photo of his father, who once ran in the Olympics, though the race was won by a black athlete. Dean also shows Chris Missy's office, explaining that she's a psychiatrist while he himself is a neurosurgeon. During the tour, Chris notices the gardener Walter and the cook Georgina, both of whom are black. Chris finds it odd that a white family has only black servants, but Dean explains that Walter and Georgina used to care for his parents, and after their passing, he kept them on out of gratitude. He even adds, "If Obama ran for a third term, I'd definitely vote for him." Later, the whole family sits together chatting. Rose's parents ask Chris about his family, and he tells them his mother died in a car accident when he was a child. Hearing this, Missy feels sympathy for him and promises not to ask any more painful questions. Dean, however, notices Chris's trembling hands and asks if he's a smoker. Before Chris can respond, Rose interrupts, saying he's not. Their conversation continues until Rose's brother Jeremy joins them. During dinner, Jeremy starts asking Chris strange questions like, "Do you like basketball? And you must enjoy fighting, right?" He even tries to challenge Chris to a fight, but Missy firmly tells him to stop. Annoyed, Jeremy storms off to his room. That night, Chris couldn't sleep and started seeing a vision of the incident that would happen today. He steps outside for some fresh air, but suddenly Walter comes running straight toward him at full speed, scaring him. At the last moment, Walter swerves and runs off in another direction. Then Chris spots Georgina acting strangely near the window. Disturbed, Chris heads back inside, where he finds Missy sitting in the dining room. She invites him to sit down. In her hand, she's holding a teacup and stirring it repeatedly with a spoon. She begins to ask Chris about the night his mother died. As their conversation goes on, Missy uses the sound of the spoon clinking against the cup to hypnotize Chris. Under hypnosis, Chris loses control of his body. He can still see and hear everything, but he's completely unable to move. The next morning, when Chris opens his eyes, he wakes up in his bed and assumes it was all just a bad dream. He goes into the forest to take some photos, but when he comes back, he sees Georgina standing by the window. Chris quickly tries to take her picture with his camera, but Georgina notices him and walks away. Then Chris spots Walter outside and tries to talk to him, but Walter behaves like an old man, speaking and acting strangely formal. This makes Chris realize that what happened last night wasn't a dream at all. Missy really did hypnotize him. Sometime later, Dean hosts a large garden party, inviting several wealthy white guests. Rose introduces Chris to everyone, but Chris feels uncomfortable because all the guests seem more interested in his body than in him as a person. So he walks away to take some pictures. There, he meets a black man named Logan. When Chris talks to him, Logan speaks very strangely like an old white man. This makes Chris suspicious. When Logan is standing with the other guests, Chris secretly takes a photo of him with his phone. The camera flash hits Logan's eyes, and suddenly, he changes completely. His nose starts bleeding, and he shouts at Chris, telling him to get out. Everyone rushes over, and Jeremy, along with others, drag Logan away. Dean calmly explains to the guests that Logan simply had a seizure, but Chris doesn't believe a word of it. Disturbed, Chris goes with Rose down to the lake to talk. He tells her everything feels off, that something very strange is going on. But Rose insists that he's just overthinking and reassures him that nothing's wrong. Meanwhile, back at the house, all the white guests are quietly holding a silent auction, and the horrifying truth is revealed. They are bidding on Chris's body. The winning bid goes to Jim Hudson, a blind art dealer. Later that evening, Chris sends the picture of Logan to his detective friend. The friend quickly recognizes him. Logan is actually Andre, the black man who was kidnapped at the start of the movie. Before the detective can say more, Chris's phone dies. Chris tells Rose that they need to leave immediately. He starts packing, but then notices a small open closet door. Curious, he looks inside, and what he finds freezes him. Dozens of photos of Rose with her previous black boyfriends, including Walter and Andre. Shocked and horrified, Chris realizes Rose has been part of this trap all along. He tries to escape, but downstairs, Dean, Missy, and Jeremy block his way. Chris fights Jeremy, but Missy uses her teacup and spoon again to hypnotize him. Chris becomes paralyzed and falls to the floor. Rose then shows her true side and joins her family. Together, they drag Chris into another room. On the other side, Chris's friend Rod keeps trying to contact him, but Chris doesn't answer. So Rod starts reading news articles about Andre and realizes that whatever happened to Andre might also happen to his friend Chris. He quickly tells his co-workers that his friend has been brainwashed, but they just laugh at him and don't take him seriously. Meanwhile, Chris wakes up and finds himself tied to a chair in front of a TV. A video starts playing. It's Rose's grandfather talking. In the video, he explains that their family discovered a way to transfer a person's brain into someone else's body. Then Jim Hudson appears on the screen and tells Chris that he wants Chris's eyes because he doesn't care about skin color. He only wants sight. Chris is shocked and confused, but he starts thinking of a way to escape. Since his hands are tied, he can't move, but he gets an idea. He pulls some cotton from the chair and puts it in his ears, so that when Missy tries to hypnotize him again using her teacup and spoon, he won't hear the sound. When she does try again, Chris pretends to fall unconscious. Meanwhile, Dean is in his lab preparing for surgery. He sends Jeremy to bring Chris, but when Jeremy comes, Chris suddenly attacks him. After waiting for a while, Dean comes out to check, but Chris sneaks up behind him and attacks him too, killing him on the spot. Then Chris goes upstairs where he sees Georgina in the kitchen. She gets scared and runs away. Chris then sees Missy standing there. Before Missy can grab her teacup, Chris quickly breaks it and attacks her, killing her too. As Chris is trying to leave, Jeremy appears and attacks him, but Chris stomps on his leg and kicks him hard in the head several times, killing him as well. Chris takes a car and drives away, but suddenly Georgina runs onto the road and the car hits her. The loud crash makes Rose hear the sound, and she grabs a gun and runs outside. Chris, feeling guilty, puts the unconscious Georgina in the car and drives off. After driving a little further, Georgina wakes up and starts screaming at Chris, saying, "You killed my whole family." That's when Chris realizes Georgina isn't a servant. She's actually Rose's grandmother inside Georgina's body. She attacks him, and the car loses control and crashes into a tree. Then Rose also arrives at the scene and starts shooting at Chris. Chris tries to escape, but Rose orders Walter to catch him. Walter quickly runs after Chris, tackles him to the ground, and pins him down. It's then revealed that Walter isn't just anyone. He's actually Rose's grandfather, whose mind was transplanted into Walter's body. As Walter prepares to kill Chris, Chris suddenly pulls out his phone and flashes the camera in his face. The flash jolts Walter's real consciousness back to life. Regaining control for a brief moment, Walter takes Rose's rifle, shoots her, and then turns the gun on himself, ending his own life. But Rose is still alive, badly wounded, yet struggling to reach the gun again. Before she can grab it, Chris stops her, holding her down and choking her in rage and pain. Just then, flashing lights appear. A police car arrives. Thinking it's the police, Chris raises his hands. But to his surprise, the driver is Rod, his best friend. Rod helps him into the car and drives away. Rose gasps her last breaths on the road as they drive away into the night. And that's where the movie ends. So friends, if you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon to get notified. And don't forget to like and share this video. I'll see you in the next video. Until then, goodbye.